Hello year 8s and welcome back to mathematics. In today's lesson we're actually starting our next topic. Now this topic was originally planned when we were going back to school, and what we were going to do was we're working towards making a plan for the garden plot that's behind J block. But unfortunately, because we can't do that, we're just going to be learning some of the stuff that we're going to need for some of the skills we required for that particular topic. What we're actually looking at is this topic of measurement. And so in this topic, we're going to be looking at how to calculate perimeters, areas, and volumes of different shapes, 2D and 3D shapes, and also be applying them in a few different scenarios. So for today's lesson, we're getting started by looking at length and perimeter. Now this hopefully is a little bit of revision and also a recap of some of the stuff that you may have looked at in the past couple of years. So let's have a talk about what we're looking at today. Today we're learning we're doing a review of units of length and perimeter. And what we want to be able to do by the end of the lesson is to be able to convert between units of length and find perimeters of 2D shapes and also solve problems involving perimeter. So let's get into it. First thing we need to do is actually look at converting units of length. Now, when we're measuring a length of something, we are looking at the distance between two particular points. So for example, if I want to measure how long this pen is, I'm looking at the length from here to here. And or if you're measuring how far it is to get from school to home, you might calculate that in that distance in kilometers. What we're looking at here is actually different ways that we can measure length. And we've got a few different units that we can use to do that. And so here we've got millimeters on the left, centimeters, meters, and kilometers. Now what we want to do is we want to be able to convert between these units. These units all just are different units of measurement for different lengths. We can use them to measure all different lengths, but what we want to do is be able to convert between them. So the way we do this, I'm going to start off by looking at millimeters to centimeters. Now, if you have a measurement in millimeters and you want to convert it into centimeters, it's the same measurement, but you just want to rewrite it in centimeters. What we do is we divide by 10. Because if you remember, 1 centimeter has 10 millimeters, which is why we need to divide by 10. So this arrow, if I want to go from millimeters to centimeters, which is what this arrow is telling me I'm doing, going from millimeters to centimeters, I divide by 10. Okay, if I go from centimeters to meters, well, 1 meter is 100 centimeters. And so what I'm going to do here is if I want to convert between the two, I'm just going to divide by 100. And the last one is meters to kilometers. And if I'm going from meters to kilometers, 1 kilometer is 1,000 meters. And so I divide by 1,000 for this one. Okay, and if we want to go backwards, all we need to do is the opposite operation of division. The opposite of division is just multiplication. So if I want to go from kilometers to meters, all I do is I times that by 1,000. So if I've got a measurement of 1 kilometer, all I need to do is just times it by 1,000, and that tells me I've got 1,000 meters. If I want to go from meters to centimeters, I times it by 100. And if I go from centimeters to millimeters, I do the opposite. I times by 10. And so when we're converting between units of length, what we do is we have a look at this particular diagram and we just think to ourselves, okay, which kind of conversion am I going to use? What operation do I need to do? And I just follow the arrows to the relevant unit. Okay, excuse me. So let's have a look at an example of this. Example 1, converting length measurements. Convert the following units into the units in the brackets. So here we've got a few different measurements. We've got 3 of them, and what we want to be able to do is convert our measurement in our first unit into our measurement in a second unit. So let's have a look at the first one. First one, I've got 5.41 centimeters. So I've got a measurement of 5.41 centimeters, and I want to convert that into millimeters. Now, if you have a look at my diagram, if I have a centimeter measurement and I want to go towards millimeters, well, if you have a look at the arrow, that just means I need to times it by 10. So what I'm going to do for this one is I'm going to, take my measurement. So here, this is 5.41, and I'm just going to times it by 10. So here, this is just 5.41 times 10 millimeters. So I want to rewrite my measurement from centimeters to millimeters. I just times by 10. Now, when we were looking at decimals, we actually looked at the trick that we could use to do multiplication. If we are multiplying by a power of 10, we just count up how many zeros it has. It has 1 0, and we move our decimal place to the right. And so here, for this example, I'm just going to move the decimal place to the right once. And so that becomes 54.1 millimeters. So here we can use the trick that we learned in fractions, decimals, and percentages, that last topic that we looked at, when we dealt with decimals, and when we are multiplying by powers of 10, which happens to be all of these cases, 10, 100, 1,000, they're all powers of 10, when we're multiplying, we can move the decimal place to the right, and that will give us the answer. Okay. Here, let's have a look at the next one. This next one, I've got 3,200 meters, and I want to convert that into kilometers. So here, I'm going to look at my diagram up above. I've got a measurement in meters, and I want to figure out what it is in kilometers. So here, if you have a look, I'm going to go along this arrow over here. And so that operation that they tell me to do is I need to divide by 1,000. So for this one, if I can erase, there we go. Kilometers. For this one, I'm just going to go, okay, this is the same as just doing 3,200 divided by 1,000 kilometers. So when I'm converting from meters to kilometers, I'm dividing by 1,000 because that's what the particular conversion tells me. Okay, cool. So if you remember from fractions, decimals, and percentages, if we're dealing with decimals and we're dividing by a power of 10, I just count up how many zeros are. 1, 2, 3. I've got 3 zeros. I look for the decimal point. The decimal point is hiding here. And we move it to the left this time because we are dividing. So here I'm going to go 1, 2, 3. And this just becomes 3.2 kilometers. So if I want to rewrite 3,200 meters in kilometers, that's just 3.2 kilometers. Okay. Final example here. C, 1.437 meters, and I want to write that in millimeters. Now, if you have a look at our diagram, so here, I'm just going to, there we go. Whoops, I got rid of too many things. There we go. Times by 10, and there should be an arrow there. If you have a look at a diagram, 1.43 meters, and we want this in millimeters. Now, if you have a look at my diagram, meters is over here, but millimeters is all the way left over here. Well, if we want to go from meters to millimeters, we actually need to do 2 steps. We need to actually go from meters to centimeters first, and then from centimeters, then we need to go millimeters. So here, not only am I going to be timesing by 100, not only am I going to be timesing by 10, but I'm going to be timesing by 10 and then going to be timesing by 100. So that's what I'm going to do here. So I need to do both of those. So I need to do both times by 10 and times by 100. So here, let's write that down. So here, oh, I've actually got 4. I forgot about that last one. If we've got 1.437 meters and I want to convert to millimeters, what I need to do is I times it by 100 first to get centimeters, then I times it by 10 to get millimeters. Okay. Now here, when we do this, because these are all just powers of 10s, what I'm going to do is I'm going to count up how many zeros there are. So I've got 1, 2, 3. I'm just going to move the decimal point because I'm multiplying here 3 times to the right. So here, 1, 2, 3. And so this is just going to be 1,437 millimeters. So here, when you're doing a conversion where you go over multiple units, you need to do all of the operations that occur. And then because we're dealing with powers of 10s, it's actually quite easy because we just count up how many zeros there are in our measurement, in our multiplication. Okay, cool. Let's have a look at the next one. Next one, and I forgot about this one. I've got 7. Oh, hang on. Let me just read up this number. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yep, okay. 7,500,000. I've got 7,500,000 centimeters, and I want that in kilometers. Now, notice here once again, when we are going from centimeters all the way to kilometers. And if you have a look at my diagram, centimeters is over here, kilometers is all the way here, and we actually have to go through 2 conversions. We need to convert from centimeters to meters first. So we divide by 100, and then we need to do meters to kilometers as well. So we need to divide by 1,000. So here, not only are we doing one of them, we actually need to do both of them. And so here, that's what I'm going to do. So I'm just going to unhighlight this so we can see what we're doing. Okay. So here, when I've got this, I've got my 7,500,000. 1, 2, 3. And the first thing I'm going to do, centimeters to meters, I'm going to divide by 100. And then meters to kilometers, I'm going to then divide that by 1,000. And that will get me kilometers. Okay. Now here, just like we did before, I'm just going to count up how many zeros I'm dividing by. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And because I'm dividing, instead of moving the decimal point to the right, I'm going to move the decimal point to the left. So here, the decimal point's here. I'm going to move it 5 times to the left. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And so here, this one, we're going to get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yep, that's correct. 75 kilometers. Okay, so that's how we convert between units of measurement. We refer back to this these kind of conversions. So 1 centimeter is 10 millimeters, 1 meter is 100 centimeters, and 1 kilometer is 1,000 meters. And then from there, we just need to figure out, okay, what operation do I need to use? And so we follow those arrows on that on this diagram. Okay, so that's how we convert between units of measurement. Now, the other thing we want to have a look at in today's lesson is what perimeter is. Now, perimeter, a quick definition that I have here. Perimeter of a 2D shape is the total length around the outside of a shape. So when you have any 2D shape, it could be any shape, something like this. The perimeter is just the total length on the outside. So we want to find how long it is to get around the whole outside of this shape. So for example, if we thought of the garden plot at the back of J-block, that would be the same as finding out what is the total length around the whole garden plot on the outside. Now, additionally, there's an additional note that I have here. Addition will be used to addition will be used to calculate the perimeter. So most of the times you're going to be using addition to help you figure out what the perimeter is. Sometimes you might have a few other steps where you need to do a few different operations as well, but most of the times you're going to be using addition. So let's have a look at the steps to calculating perimeter. Steps to calculating perimeter. The first step, and this is a step that you need to do and it's a thing that you need to check. The first step is that check all the lengths are the same unit. So what we want to do is we want to make sure that all the lengths have the same units. If you've got some measurements in centimeters and some measurements in meters, you can't actually add them together yet. And so what we're going to need to do, if they are not, is that we need to convert the lengths to make them the same units. So using the conversions that we did up here, we need to actually convert some of our measurements from if we've got different units, we need to convert them so they have the same unit. And you can choose whichever unit you would like to use. Then from there, what we want to do is add all the lengths on the outside of the shape. So what we do is we then look at all the lengths on the outside and we just add them all together. And here, important note, sides with the same number of dashes have the same length. So if you remember, whenever you draw a shape, if you ever see these dashes going through two of the sides, that means same number of dashes. So here, this means that this side has the same length as this side over here. Okay, so let's have a go at a couple of examples of this. The first one here. So example 2, finding the perimeter of shapes. Find the perimeter of the following shapes. Let's have a look at this first one, A. Now, when we're trying to find the perimeter, what we want to do, we first check that all our length measurements are the same unit. So if you have a look here, I've got 5 centimeters, 9 centimeters, 10 centimeters, and 4 centimeters. All of them are in centimeters. That's good for me. I don't need to actually do any conversions. Okay, and from there, when we're dealing with perimeter, all we need to do is just add them all together. So here, I'm going to write P, short for perimeter. So here, I'm just going to make a note. This is my perimeter. That's just going to be equal to, I'm going to add up all of my sides together. So I'm just going to list them out. 9 plus 10 plus 4 plus 5. Okay. So 9 plus 10 gives me 19. 19 plus 4 is 23. 23 plus 5 is 28. And so this is going to be 28 centimeters. Now it's really important that you put that unit at the end. Just tell whoever's looking at your work, hey, it's actually in centimeters. It's not in meters, for example. Okay, so there we go. First example. We check that all the lengths are in the same units, and then we add them all together. Okay, let's have a look at another one. Now this next one has a few tricks involved. Now if you have a look at the diagram, we get only given, there's two sides here, 12 meters and 18 meters. Now if you have a look, that only covers this side over here and this side over here. That's not actually the total length around the outside of my shape. And so the perimeter is not just going to be, I'm going to write here, it's not going to be 18 plus 12, which is 30 meters. It is not this. If you have a look at my note, well, if you have a look on the diagram, there's actually two more sides. We've got this one at the top here with 2 dashes through it, and we've got this one over here with 1 dash through it. So what we can do is, based on the diagram, we can actually go and look and say, hang on, these 2 dashes, is the same as the 2 dashes at the bottom here for my 18. And so that tells me the top side is going to be 18 meters as well. And similarly, the side on my left is going to also be 12 meters. And so when I'm wanting to find my perimeter, all I need to do is I go, okay, 18 plus 12 plus 18 plus 12. And that equals to, well, when we add that all together, that is actually 60 meters altogether. Now, there is another way that you could have done this. You could have also done this as, well, hopefully you've noticed, there's actually 2 pairs of 18 and 12. There's one pair over here, and there's another pair over here. And so another way that you could have done this is you could also go, or the perimeter is just going to be 2 lots of 18 plus 12. And so that's just 2 times 30, which is 60 meters. Exact same way of getting the same answer, but just a little different way of viewing and different way of getting there. Okay, let's have a look at final example here. Oh, actually, final example for this set. Okay, this one here is a little bit trickier and requires a bit of thinking. Now, the perimeter is the total length on the outside of the shape. If you have a look at our measurements, we've got 4 centimeters over here, and we've got 3 centimeters over here. That's great. Okay, they're both in the same units. We don't need to actually convert anything. What I need to do from here, though, is go, okay, hang on. I've got a few missing sides. I've got this side, which is missing. I've got this side, which is missing. I've got this side, which is missing. And I've got this side, which is missing. Okay. Well, one of these sides is quite easy to find. Hopefully you notice that, similar to the last question, you've got this side that has 2 dashes through it, just like this one. And so what that tells me is that this measurement, this side over here, is going to be 3 centimeters. Okay, cool. Now, here is where it gets a little bit tricky. Now notice that I've got 3 missing sides here. I've got this side here, and this side here. Now I've labeled them in different colors for a particular reason. If you have a look at the green sides, if I drag this along here, to put it here, drag this along over here, put it over here, what do those 2 green sides add up to make? Well, if you have a look, those 2 green sides actually add up to make 4 centimeters. So even though I don't know what each individual green side is, I don't know how long that side is, or I don't know how long this side is, it doesn't really matter, because all I know is that both those green sides will add up to 4 centimeters. And similarly, if you have a look at the other side, the blue side, well, I've got my 3 centimeters here, and I've got this other 3 centimeters here. I can just go, okay, cool, this 3 centimeters is going to go up here, and this 3 centimeters is going to go over here. And what you notice is that they will actually add up to make that blue side. And so what I can do here for this particular question is go, okay, actually, my perimeter is going to be, well, I've got my 3 centimeters and my 4 centimeters that I started off with. I've got the other 3 centimeters that I found out through the same number of dashes. But then the other 2 sides were just, okay, it's another 4 centimeters on the left-hand side when I add those 2 sides together. And at the top, I'm going to get 6 centimeters. So here, for my total perimeter, that's just going to give me 14 plus 6, which I believe gives you 21. No, I may have done that wrong. 14 plus 6, yeah, no, that's 20. 20 centimeters. There we go. Okay, so this one was a little bit trickier and required a little bit of thinking and an extra step involved. But that's how we find perimeter. Perimeter is just a total length on the outside of a shape. And so what we need to do is just figure out what lengths make up this outside of my shape and just add them all together if possible. Okay. Now for our final bit, what we want to be able to do is actually work backwards to finding missing lengths. So let's say they give us the perimeter of our shape and we want to be able to find one of our missing sides. To work backwards to find a missing length, create an equation which relates the side lengths and the perimeter. So like we did in those previous examples, what we're going to do is we're going to just add up all our side lengths and then write the perimeter that's equal to our perimeter. And in this case, they're going to actually give us the perimeter so we can work our way backwards. So let's have a look at this example. Find the length of the unknown side in this shape. So if you look, we have a triangle here and we've got 2 sides. We've got 5 centimeters and we've got x centimeters. We don't know what x is. Now, once again, we've got this missing side here. We don't know how long this side is, but if you have a look at my dashes, they've got 2 dashes here. This has got 2 dashes here. So that tells me that this red side over here is going to be x centimeters long. The other thing that they tell me is that the whole perimeter is 19 centimeters. So what I can do is I can go, okay, well, my perimeter is just 19 centimeters. So when I add up all my sides, x plus 5, that's going to give me 19. Okay. Now notice I've got two x's adding together. When I add two x's, I just write that as 2x plus 5 is equal to 19. And so we can start to solve this equation to help me figure out what x is equal to. So first thing I can do is I can move that 5 over to the other side. When I move something over to the other side, I'm subtracting it. So here I'm going to go 2x is equal to 19 minus 5. And so that gives me 14. So 2x is equal to 14. Okay, then from there I can divide both sides by 2 to get me x. So x is going to be 14 divided by 2, and that gives me 7. So that tells me that x is 7 centimeters long. Okay, so for here what we're doing is we're working our way backwards. We're doing the same steps that we did above, but instead we're actually given the perimeter and we can work our way back. Okay, so that's it for today's lesson. Let's do a quick recap of what we looked at. In today's lesson, we looked at converting between units of length. And so that's what we started off at the top here. And so what we need to remember is that when we have 1 centimeter, that is 10 millimeters. When we have 1 meter, that is 100 centimeters. And when we have 1 kilometer, we have 1,000 meters. And using those conversions, we can actually figure out what different units are what different measurements are in different units. Then the second thing that we looked at was perimeter. The perimeter was the total length around the outside of my shape. And so usually what you're going to be doing is adding up all the side lengths together. We went through a few examples of that. And we also went through how we could actually use the perimeter to help me find a missing side. So that's it for today's lesson, Year 8. Hopefully that helps. And if there's any questions, feel free to send me a message on Google Classroom or email me. I'm more than happy to try and answer your questions. And until next lesson, I hope you guys are staying safe wherever you are. And I'll see you in the next video. Bye.